Hey folks, welcome back. So today we're going to talk about the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Every time they've shown a picture of Brian Thompson over the past week, I can't help but think he looks like an all grown up Eric Cartman. But anywho, let's go through the story. As things come up, we'll talk about it. I'm going to start with the arrest and kind of work backwards. So here we go. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione made it 5 days on the run and was arrested 300 miles away at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania. How the arrest went down is a customer at McDonald's thought they recognized him. I think that's him. Told the employee at McDonald's, who called law enforcement. A rookie 6-month-on-the-job police officer shows up, approaches Luigi and asks him, "Would you mind removing your mask for a second?" When Luigi does, the cop said he immediately recognized him and asked him, "Have you been to New York City by any chance recently?" With that question, Luigi started shaking visibly, and they took him into custody. On Luigi's person, he had a couple fake IDs, including the one he used to check into the hostel here in New York City. What they think is the murder weapon, which they're describing as a 3D printed ghost gun that does match the bullets used in the murder, a handwritten manifesto with the overall theme being "this parasite had it coming." I think that's it. Myself personally, I always keep a bag under the floorboards in the basement with a couple fake IDs, couple fake passports, $10,000 cash, keys to an unlicensed motorcycle, a leather jacket, a pair of sunglasses, and a pack of cigarettes, just in case. Oh yeah, another thing is, I don't know if they changed their tune, but at least at first they were trying to screw over the McDonald's employee from getting the $60,000 reward. That's life-changing money, by saying, "Ah, crap, you accidentally called 911 instead of the official tip line, stupid." Well, darn it, you don't get any of the money. See you later. So I guess if you're ever going for one of these rewards, call the official tip line and get a verbal, maybe even get it in writing. "Yeah, pal, you want this information? Put it in writing. Make it notarized." Click. Another interesting aspect of this one, and I've seen this back and forth play out a number of times over the years, but right when it happened, a whole bunch of jokes were made on the internet essentially saying, "Your claim for thoughts and prayers has been denied at this time. Sorry." And then there was a whole group of people that got really mad at those people for joking, that came out and said, "This is sickening. This is repugnant. This was a man, and you're making jokes. This is totally inappropriate to joke about." And what I've noticed about watching this exact back and forth happen a few times over the years is it never is a great look to dance on someone's grave, even if you think they're awful. But then on the flip side, to try to come out and be the hall monitor of comedy, "Excuse me, everyone, this is now officially a no topic to joke about." That also ends up being kind of a sad, pathetic fight, because when something good, bad, or neutral happens, the way that humans process it is by making jokes, and that's just the way it is. So to try to go against just the way that it is never is a great look. But then on top of that, when the hall monitor types of comedy try to come out, just because they are who they are and they have that personality type, once they try to make a no topic, it immediately makes it kind of a fun topic to joke about. So there's a backfire. But anyway, the way I feel about this back and forth every time I watch it is I support the free speech of the people that want to make, the repugnant jokes. And then I also support the people that want to get mad. They also have the right to say what they want to say. Where I start to draw the line and go, nope, is once people start calling for big consequences for the people that made the joke, like firing from the job, anything like that. I saw a Fox News pundit, some lady. I saw the clip on Twitter. I didn't recognize her. I don't know what show she's on, but she was saying, if you're an employer out there, or if you're a boss and you're thinking about hiring someone, maybe check their social media to see if they made one of these jokes, and then you don't have to hire them. It's like, what do you expect, lady? This guy enriched himself. The company that he ran made $280 billion profit for telling people no that needed help. people are going to have some anger towards that. You got to let them joke. You got to let things just work themselves out. And also, lady, not all of us are looking for a job and have a boss. So we'll just do whatever we want. How about that? You're going to have to learn to square with that. Do you really think people are going to flood the streets weeping when this guy gets murdered like Kim Jong-il just died? Oh, why, dear healthcare leader? Oh, why? I always wonder, what do you think the people are thinking that have to go out when a communist dictator dies and they have to line the streets and they get all the shots of everybody crying and screaming? That's a weird part of human existence. I'd love to know what's going on in their head. Like, man, this is so weird. Uh-oh, the camera's coming. I got to ham it up a little bit. I loved it. He is so great. Okay, the camera's passing. Kind of back it off a little bit. But there's been enough people over the years that worked for these health insurance companies that have come out and have said how depraved the whole thing is. There's story after story that are heartless. It's like, imagine being in a business meeting where this is the business model to make money. Like, all right, people, we made $280 billion profit last year. If we're going to make it 300 this year, we're going to have to get really depraved. Remember our slogan this quarter: nothing is too heartless. All right. So if you want to make it, you want to get a big bonus at the end of the year, you want to move up in this company, I want to hear the ideas now. Remember, nothing is too depraved. All right, over here. Yeah. What if we start turning down life-saving surgeries and just, letting the person die? It's a good idea, but we already do that. Okay, over here. Yeah, what if we even go back in the process and we turn down covering the test to see if they need the life-saving surgery? That way, when we're at the pool party in the Hamptons, we don't even have to think about or feel any of that guilt of like, maybe we caused the death. It just, who knows why they died. Again, decent idea, but we already implemented that years ago. Okay, people, we're going to have to get really depraved. And for that business model, for people to make just filthy rich money off of it, the fact that they make a couple jokes on the internet, I think you just got to get over it. That's the way I feel about it. This probably is the least sympathy I've ever had for somebody that I've done an episode about. It's not easy to get the tone right for one of these episodes when it's, I don't know if he was, but there is a category of he had it coming, and you can't really blame people if they think that how he conducted himself and the business model that he used to enrich himself, if he ends up in that category. And so, all right, let's get back to the Luigi Mangione. One thing that really hit me when it came out, when he was arrested in Pennsylvania, is he had zero plan for a long term to actually get away with it. He disappeared totally from friends and family 4 months ago. So you would have had to have a lie for your friends and family to even have a chance at this. So he goes missing from friends and family 4 months ago. His mom filed a missing persons report 1 month ago, which, if you got loving parents, that's a guarantee. So not having something to tell his parents, yeah, I'm off doing this a semester, I'm going on vacation, something guaranteed. It doesn't even matter that he got his face, when he took his mask down to smile at the cute girl. We'll talk about that. It doesn't matter. There was zero chance. I think that he even wanted to maybe get caught. He really idolized Ted Kaczynski, and I think he wanted to trade his freedom, trade his life to become what he thinks is like a Ted Kaczynski type character, a counterculture figure, someone that stood up to an evil system. There's contradictions, I always thought Ted Kaczynski's manifesto is interesting. It's well written, but it's all about like how to minimize suffering for humans. Well, how is sending off a bomb that some lady's probably going to open on accident, her hand gets blown off, her face gets mutilated? So how's that reducing suffering? But the fact that he would have. I was waiting for them to say he had a bunch of cash on him, and the fact that he didn't, I mean, what are you going to do? Just show up in Pennsylvania with the fake ID and start a whole new life? But anyway, the mom does a missing persons request a month before it happened. Right when it happened, local law enforcement made the connection. Hey, remember that mom that did the missing person? Look at this picture. They look the exact same. Told the FBI. So the FBI already had his name long before. So I think he planned, I want to get out of New York City, disappear in a puff of smoke for part of the story. Look at him. He disappeared. He pulled it off. He was able to get with it. And then that's kind of where the plan started, or that's where the plan stopped. And what are you just going to ride dingy buses and trains around the East Coast and eat at McDonald's until a new life presents itself to you? You got no money. You can't use mommy and daddy's credit cards because that would show a trail. They would know where you were. So I think it's safe to say that maybe didn't want to get caught, but I think didn't mind getting caught because then he could start getting credit for it. He can become this counterculture figure that he was infatuated with Ted Kaczynski, and he can, in his head, become a figure like that. Let's see. He went to... He's not a dummy. I mean, you can't go. He's an engineering major at Penn, but at least as far as reading like his manifesto compared to Ted Kaczynski, I'm not glorifying the Unabomber at all, but he actually is a smart dude. Accepted into Harvard at 15. His manifesto, just the ideas and how well it's written, is leagues in a whole different level as Luigi Mangione. So I think there's maybe some delusions of grandeur with Luigi Mangione. Also, Luigi Mangione's 26 years old. That's the age that severe mental issues can rear their head in young men. So maybe it's that. Or maybe it could be recently or in the past year, I don't know if it's months or a year, Luigi Mangione had a very serious back surgery. He has, on his social media, he has pictures of plates and screws and a whole mess of stuff in his lower back. So most likely he had his own horrible experience with the American healthcare system. It's awful. And then he was an avid reader, so most likely he read that book, the Delay, Deny, Depose book that talks about how awful it is. I think he probably got a little bit stuck and infatuated with that book. And then in the book club that they read, or in the book club he was in, they read the Ted Kaczynski manifesto, and he left a glowing review of the Ted Kaczynski manifesto. And then one of the last quotes on Goodreads, I don't know if he like reposted it or highlighted. I'm not on Goodreads, but one of the last ones that is up on his profile is a Dr. Seuss quote that says, "Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not." So I think you can follow it. He probably had his own horrible back surgery experience. And then he had the mindset, or he read the Delay, Deny, Depose about the broken healthcare industry. And then he kind of had the mindset of, unless someone like you cares an awful lot, nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to get better. It's not. Also, he gets infatuated with the Ted Kaczynski, becoming a figure like that. And I think that's the through line of how he wound up where he did. All right, so let's talk about the plan. Pretty decent plan to pull it off here in New York City. It's a total surveillance state in New York City, but Central Park is this big, natural, wild area. I walked dogs for years right around Central Park. Actually, people that follow this channel, I have a story on this channel about running into Keanu Reeves when I was walking a dog, where Luigi Mangione exited the park after the killing was right where I ran into Keanu Reeves. Actually, where I spent the most time in Central Park, because I walked the Chocolate Lab 3 times a day, like a block away from where he exited the park. And so I know that area really well, but it was a pretty big mistake. Not that it matters because he didn't tell his parents where they were and the missing person and all that, but it was a mistake to leave a main exit and entrance of the park because they probably were pretty able to locate him leaving the park and then follow him all the way up to his hostel. A better idea would have left the park not in a main entrance, just lift the e-bike he was riding over the stone wall and then climb over it. Would have been a lot harder to find him on camera. But anyway, he showed up to New York City 10 days before, bummed around. Now that he's going to spend the rest of his life in a concrete fart hole, I'm imagining he's going to look back at that week riding around his e-bike in Central Park. It was beautiful weather right around Thanksgiving. He's probably going to look back at that as one of the last good nature experiences of his whole life. But anywho, so gets to New York City 10 days early. He took a bus in. Checks into the hostel. At a few times he checked out of it, or at least one time he checked out of it and then would check back in. And kind of one of the funny parts of the whole thing is the one full face picture they had him. Think about the NYPD going through hundreds of hours of footage. Going to get the footage is a total nightmare. Takes forever. Once you finally get the footage, some poor schmuck has to watch it. So think of the feeling they had when after watching all the footage, you get a full face with the mask down. And it's funny. I picture Luigi Mangione planning the whole thing like it's going to be perfect. From start to finish, precision. I'm going to not take my mask down one time the whole time I'm there. Why would I? It's wintertime. There's no need to. They're not going to see my face. And all it took was a beautiful woman to be like, let me see your smile. Okay. And he just yanks the mask down. So that was the big, mistake in his pretty good plan to pull it off while he was in Manhattan. But then now that almost a week has gone by and it's come out that his parents had already put in the missing person and that FBI knew his name. It doesn't even really matter about the face. But anyway, 10 days before, made the mistake to pulling the mask down when he was flirting with the girl, which turns out being a pretty good-looking, ripped guy almost was a weakness for this, because if it would have been a pimply, ugly guy with no confidence, he probably wouldn't have flirted with the girl and pulled his mask down. And then another thing that I heard about is maybe what led him into the despair that Luigi thought that, this is worth trading my life for. I don't got a life out here because of all this back pain and the surgery and everything. It's like, who cares? At least I'll be this figure that I have created in my head. But something I heard a couple times is he had told somebody that because he was in so much back pain that he was not going to be able to be intimate with a woman. And I don't really believe that. There's a lot of couples with way worse situations than with a sore back. Someone's paralyzed or someone doesn't even have arms or legs. They're a torso or something. I mean, you really do hear about couples that have crazy situations and they figure it out. He's this good looking ripped guy with a sore back. You could figure something out. But what that sounds like to me is a young kid. He's probably in a ton of pain. When you're going through an injury like that, it's easy to get really low. And he probably was just almost venting and saying, I'm not even going to be able to be, intimate with a girl because of this back problem. And I also don't know if he said that before the surgery, which I heard was successful, or after. But again, that could have been, maybe he had a psychological disorder that was rearing its ugly head in late 20s, mixed with the pain and despair of going through a horrible injury. Or maybe it was just the injury and it just got him to a place that it didn't seem like life was worth living. And so, hey, I'll just become a character like I look up to in the Unabomber. Okay. So somehow he figured out that the big investor meeting for United Healthcare was at the Hilton, which is at the bottom of the park. And so it's not a bad plan to say, all right, I'm going to pull it off, get on an e-bike, disappear into the park where there's no cameras or anything, At first, the big discussion after when there was only just the footage of him shooting, it was like, is this a professional hitman or is this, somebody that's doing it on their own? The reason I think everybody thought it was a professional hitman is because he was impressively smooth with shooting. He had to have practiced in that 4 months, because if you don't practice quite a bit, it's harder than you think to look smooth like that, like in the movies. If you've never shot guns or the gun you're going to use for something before, like if you just go to a pawn shop and buy a gun and then go out and try to shoot it, you're going to miss everything. You're probably going to start shaking. Even if there's no pressure on the line, it's not going to look good. And then if it was the big moment, you'd probably fumble the thing and drop it. So the fact that it was pretty smooth and he had to cock it each time and then he dipped away, everyone was like, dang, is this like a real deal professional assassin where someone had a problem with this guy and hired someone? But then personally, I figured that it was just someone working on their own once it came out that the bullets had the delay, deny, depose. To me, someone, if their only goal was to pull off a hit and get the money and get out of there and get away with it, they're not going to make a story out of it. They're not going to make a game out of it and write delay, deny, depose on the bullets. And then he ditched the backpack in Central Park and it had Monopoly money in it. So that's, for myself, I started to think, all right, this is somebody that either their family got screwed over by the healthcare system or they did, and then they read that book, the Delay, Deny, Depose, that he wrote on the bullets, really connected and got stuck on that book, and then wanted to create a big spectacle, a game, toy with law enforcement. And so shoots Brian Thompson, gets on the e-bike, disappears in the park, pops out 8 minutes later. So he really was hauling on there's a bunch of big paved roads for bikes in Central Park. So I would guess the big 10 days bumming around was doing the route down the park and up the park over and over again. And then he popped out where I met Keanu Reeves. And then they said went to a bus station way far up down, but then they think ended up taking a train to Pennsylvania. And then, like I said, I kept waiting for him to say he had $30,000 because he comes from a rich family in San Francisco. He had $30,000, but the fact that they didn't mention anything, I think he probably just had normal like wallet cash on him. And so that's why I just kept getting the overwhelming feeling of there was no chance to really make it. And I think probably subconsciously he wanted it to all end and just start getting the credit for what he did, is what I assume. All right, so let's keep it moving. Let me see if I got anything else. Yeah, I think that's it, folks. So I'm going to cut it off there. I'll see you next time. Wild story. Why? Stavin' why? Shami.